I'm going to give you the exact framework and systems I use to build an AI assistant for your business. And this isn't just an AI that you can ask questions back and forth with. This is an AI that can potentially replace an entire team or replace micro decisions so you can utilize your team in better places. So I built out a checklist. We're going to jump straight in, and this is going to be very value-based, packed with exact what to do, how to think about it. Now, when we're building out AI assistants or AI workflows, the first thing we need to do is think about what problems we're actually going to solve. So the first thing we have to do is determine what constraint or problem are we actually wanting to solve. To do that, we call them bottlenecks in our business. What's actually slowing the business down? And by improving that, what is going to make us more money? So when we look at this, we have some decision variables that we want to cover. So is it going to increase revenue? Is it going to help us bring in new clients, new sales, new business? Is it going to increase lifetime value? The other piece of it, is it reducing risk? Is it less likely that we're going to be sued? And finally, what I spend a lot of my time on is, because I already run an Inc. 5000 business, is how can I recapture time in my business? So for myself and for my team, so they can become more valuable to the company and increase what their value actually is. Now, the next piece of that is if it's answered yes to all of these, and we'll go through the checklist one at a time to make sure it makes sense for everyone, but is the cost of the time to implement worth it? So if you're increasing revenue, but you might make one new sale per year and your sale or lifetime value is maybe $500, but it costs you $10,000 to implement this, it's not worth implementing. So it's not the right problem. So that's when we look at if it's actually the right problem. So this is where I think AI becomes the most key. Is we want to not think about AI first. We want to think about problems first. You want to make sure that whatever you're solving is simple enough that you can explain to your team in about 30 seconds. So for this example, what we're going to do is, as part of Founder Systems AI, I get a lot of email requests that come in, and people ask about the course, they ask about guarantees, they ask about what the deliverables are. So what we want to do is build out a simple FAQ, then use AI. So every time they email us, it would then basically automatically respond or draft a response using AI. And so what this does is it allows my setters and BDRs to focus more on outbound or focus more intentional replies. So maybe they're doing Loom videos or they're doing additional steps in there. Maybe they're calling instead of actually just writing that email. The email's done. So what we're doing is, ideally, we're increasing revenue in this, but also if we get better replies, we're also increasing lifetime value and we're recapturing time for my BDRs. But I want you to start thinking as a system architect. So how are we building these systems to make an impact and not just building AI to build AI? Because if you're using AI like Google, you're not utilizing any of the true core features. Of course, it can be helpful, but it's not really where we want to be focused. So we found the problem that we want to do, and that's step one. So let's check through here, say we found a problem, we're happy with it. Now we want to map out what the human process is first. So we're assuming this process already exists in your business. Now I'm going to jump kind of back and forth on these, but if we have a process already, we're probably going to want to do more, better, or new. So what that means is we want to just consistently do what we're doing, but we want to do more of it. So if it was like outbound email marketing or cold calling, maybe we want to double it. Better would be what I'd be looking for in this scenario, is how do we reduce the time of response and get equal or better replies? So that's really what I want to do by solving this problem. Is I'm not doing anything new, and maybe I layer on new later where I have them call and they didn't used to call. But first I want to focus on the current issue that is these responses, and I'm going to do it better, because I'm going to do it within 5 minutes and I'm going to have more complete answers that are refined and really dialed in versus just having different people have different responses. We really want to focus on systematizing this so that it's always answered very quickly. So what we have to do is document the current process. And the biggest thing with this is, with my example of the email marketing, it's pretty simple. So if someone emails us and says, hey, I'm interested in Founder Systems AI, can you tell me more about the guarantee? We want to have that document. So first off, what we know we're having, and you can draw this out, you can write it out. A lot of this is kind of just automatic to me, so I don't necessarily go through each checklist, but if you've never done this before, it's really, really helpful to do this. But I know an incoming email comes in, my BDR reads that email, and then they maybe check an FAQ. If they don't know the answer, they do some research on the company, and then they draft a reply. So let's just assume they check the FAQ, and then they actually Google the company, and then they create a reply and they hit send. So pretty simple process, and that's why I wanted to start with this one, because the cost to implement is really, really simple. So with this, I'm just going to document the current process. And for me, I like using something like Loom. So I'm just going to do a screen share of what I would do, and maybe I'll do 4 or 5 replies, and I'll talk through everything that that I'm doing. So I'm going to my FAQ, I'm talking about where that FAQ is. I'm saying that I am finding the question that they asked. I'm looking at the answer. I'm confirming that it's still relevant. And then I'm copying and pasting it. I'm modifying, I'm doing a little Google research. I'm adding some keywords from their company, maybe they're an agency, and then I'm hitting send. So I would take that, I would do it in Loom, and then I would just take the transcription and turn it into what we're gonna do in step 3 is our SOP. Okay, so we're just gonna go through this before we get into the actual documentation part. We're documenting the current steps. So we're not really focused on what the SOP is gonna be for the future. We're just listing out what we do. And again, you can do that really high level if you want and just write down a couple things. We wanna make sure that we're clear with every single step. We're determining if there's judgment involved or if it's just repetition, what really needs to kind of happen. So maybe there's a judgment on the correct answer or how to research, and we wanna try to map out what the current decision process is. Then we wanna look at, once we have this current flow, is there anything unnecessary? Do we actually need to Google the company? Is that slowing it down? Is it adding value? Now, with this, again, the goal is not necessarily to do new. So if it's not already happening, we're not super concerned about that. We're just trying to improve a current workflow. So we're either doing more or better again. So we're looking at that. And then finally, we need to have a really clear output. And this will be more evident as we get further into the prompt engineering behind this. But if you can't explain what that output is, you're not gonna be successful with AI, because if you can't tell someone how to do it, it can't do it. So for this, our output is just a final email formatted like an email going into Gmail that can then either auto send or save as drafts, so my team can manually send it with a manual check. So those are the first 2 things. And again, I'm gonna jump back up to number 1. It's really important that you ask yourself, are you actually solving a problem in your business? And is this gonna allow you to have some success? So these variables that impact the business is so important. So we wanna make sure that we have that impact and understand it. Now we're gonna get into standard operating procedures, SOPs. So I do have a template. So now in step 3, it's important that we take all of that process, and if we're making any improvements, and then we document it. So I do have an example of a standard operating procedure SOP template that I use, and you're able to grab that for free down below and implement it into that business. And I also have an example video walkthrough of how I build these SOPs. So that's a different process. But for this example, I built out an FAQ, which I have in a Word file, which I'm just gonna open up. So we're gonna want some sort of documentation. You can see there's no fancy formatting here. It's literally just an FAQ. I used AI to go back and forth. I asked questions, and it's super short. It's nothing crazy. And this is about the Founder Systems AI course and community. Again, you can check that out down below and get all these free tools as well. But this is what we're going to be using as the knowledge for the AI. So we have to educate the assistant. And that's where I think a lot of miss is think about AI as an intern or a brand new employee who may have the background and the education that you want. So they have the fundamental ability to be successful in their role, but without the right guidance, without the right prompt, which is going to be telling them what the task is, and without the right knowledge about the business, they're not going to be as successful. So we're building this system as if they were an employee. And I think that's the key, is educating your employees. And this really should be what you're doing with your employees too, is you're giving them very clear information to be successful. So we're going to build these templates, FAQs, whatever you want, clean it up, make sure it's all up to date. I do have a file structure system right here. Again, different video, but I have a really easy way to grab knowledge over and over again. So I don't have to recreate it every single time, because that would be really annoying. And if I need to add to it, it's already saved in Google Drive is what I use. And then I can just pull from it. Then decide what the AI is allowed to reference. So if I have a massive knowledge base, you don't want to give it every single thing. You just want to give it what it actually needs. So that's really where we're building the knowledge. And then we're going to get into actually prompting and building that AI now. So we have our knowledge, which is going to be that key piece. It's giving them the textbook or your style guide. It's just giving them the education they need. Now we actually need to give them the prompt. So again, think of this as an employee. We're educating them with what steps they need. So first off, with this prompt, we really have to define the role. So for our example, we're sticking to this, it's a business development representative, or BDR. They're responsible for responding to incoming requests about Founder Systems AI. And then their task is to, and that's the next step here, their task is to, let's just say they're gonna draft an email. So you're gonna draft an email based on context, the FAQ provided in the knowledge base for our clients. And then our output is going to be a drafted email so that we can then have our real BDRs hit send. And the reason why I probably start this way is because we want to make sure the output is consistent and good. So we're gonna build it exactly like this. And I will jump into a platform to show you how I do this. We can use ChatGPT for this example, but you can use Notebook LM for internal. You can use ChatGPT, you can use Claude, you can use literally any of these AI are merging into becoming very similar. So it just depends on what you like. For copywriting, I find currently Claude might edge out some of the competitors, but I still use ChatGPT for most of the things. And if that's where you live, or if you want this internal and you use Google Tools, Google Notebook is amazing. So the next piece of this is we want to test the outputs and refine. So typically when I do this, I don't get the right results right away, especially when it comes to formatting. Is if I wanted to format like an email, I might have to give it something in this instructions or rules. So I would give it an example in the format, output format. I would say, here's an example of how I want it formatted. And then maybe I need it to come out in HTML to go into Gmail. So we're gonna play with that to get the results you want. And this is where a lot of the magic comes. It's really these two steps is how you get the assistant to actually be a real assistant in your team and not just some useless tool that no one ends up using, especially when we actually connect it. So I will show you that piece of it real quick, and then we'll go to the next step, which is going to be making it useful. But then number 6, you really want to stick around because it's how you're actually able to basically eliminate employees, and what we did was we really didn't eliminate any employees with AI. We were a smaller team. We were able to utilize them to do other pieces of the business and to get a lot better at what they were doing. So let's just pull up chat real quick, and I'm gonna make this super fast. I just wanna show you guys how I do this. So for this example, I'm gonna use a folder. I really enjoy folders more for my internal. So the difference between a GPT would be this example would actually be a really good GPT. So maybe we'll do a GPT, but GPT would be like every single time it's basically a saved prompt. So you can think as a GPT as a saved prompt with knowledge, whereas a folder is more of an educated department. So I use that for all knowing systems, or if I want a sales for founder system, I want a salesperson, if I want an ops person, and I'm gonna have kind of more conversations back and forth versus just a key kind of assistant. So in this step, we'll use a GPT. We'll come in, we'll go to explore GPTs. I'm gonna hit my GPTs. I'm gonna just go ahead and create a new one over here. I mentioned that we already have this knowledge base right here. That's gonna be the FAQ. It's not that crazy, it's short. And what we do is you don't have to overthink this. Come up with the 10 or 20 most common questions you're getting, ask your team, have them save it for a week or two, go answer it, make sure it's exactly how you want it to use. Work with AI to modify it, improve it. So what you're doing is you're getting the best possible answers. And then I will show you in step 6 how we actually connect this to tools, and we can even have it do research. It is more advanced, but I just want to walk you through the mindset of how you actually are turning these kind of almost, I don't want to say useless, but they're just like folders in a tool that kind of get used to something that's just integrated into the business. And that's where the magic happens. So in here, we have instructions and things like that. So what I do is I'm big on dictation. It also is very helpful on video because you get to hear. So let's pull up that formula again. So again, we want role, task, context, and output. So I'm gonna move this to the side so I can kind of look through it. And I still use these for a while, and you can even say the things. So let's see. I need your help building instructions for a GPT to basically respond to emails for my team. So you are a highly skilled sales development representative, expert consultant in the space. You have at least 10 years experience, and you've been brought on to improve this process. Your task is to read emails as they come in and help draft replies based on the context of our knowledge base. Now, I want your output to be a email. So it should be hello, name, response, sincerely, and then whoever's writing that email. And so that is what I would like you to do. Okay, so now it's gonna be working in the background. It's taking my transcriptions. Remember, we had role, task, context, and output, and it's going to build the instructions. And the best part is you'll notice that it's gonna start loading, and it's actually gonna build it into the GPT for us. Now, a lot of times when I'm building out GPTs, or any type of AI assistant, even if it's in Claude or a folder, I build it kind of here first because it'll generate the instructions for me. So I'm getting to use AI to build AI to improve AI. So it's my own assistant. Sales representative, perfect. So it's just asking me if that's what I want. I'm gonna say yes. So I'm gonna get to have a conversation back and forth, and it's generating everything and putting it together. And you can even say, hey, ask me questions to make this better. So it's just helping me build it. It's doing every single thing. It's implementing and improving it, and then we're gonna get to test it. So everything is all set up, perfect. So we've literally just created the assistant. Now it's not connected to any tools, which we're gonna show you, so stick around. But this is already more powerful than most AI assistants people make. So let's go here and load more. Okay, so here it is. This is the instructions. It literally pre-filled out everything. You can kind of skim the instructions. Now, back to the checklist, one of the key things here is we need to test the outputs. So in here, I'm gonna say, I'm interested in Founder Systems AI. I wanna systemize my business. First, do you think it's a good use for me? I'm an agency owner. I have 10 employees. We do $2 million a year, and I feel like I have some constraints. Also, in the course, do you have any guarantees? Now, I didn't spend a whole bunch of time building out the instructions or my FAQ, so this might not be a perfect reply, but we'll go ahead and see what this looks like. So now notice that this did not format how I want it to. So that's where we really go back into the instructions, and what I'm gonna do is go chat. I'm gonna say, I'm building out an AI assistant, and I want all my outputs to be formatted like an email and just give the email only, no other information. It should be hello, name, response to the email, and then a signature best. So I'm gonna improve my output by doing this. And this could take some massaging back and forth. So I'm just gonna say fix this. That way you guys get to see my full process real quick. Okay, so we got some instructions that I'm gonna add into our GPT right here. I'm just gonna add at the bottom. Now, typically I spend a lot of time on these instructions. So it's reloading, create, and then I'm gonna say only me to save. And then I'm gonna come back and say, I'd like to learn more about Founder Systems AI. I'm an agency owner. I do about $2 million a year. Do you have any guarantees? So now let's see what it comes up with. So you notice it's searching the knowledge base, and that's one of the key things is it's actually doing a search. So it's still not outputting how I want. So let's see if I can fix this. There we go. So now it's giving the email reply. And again, I would have to work back and forth with this because this is still way too long. This isn't exactly what I want, but it's getting closer and closer. And so we just have to continue to play with it and massage the prompt to get the results. And that's one of the key things is understanding that you can literally put in the instructions, role, task, context, output. So now that we've gotten the prompt working and we have it and it's kind of starting to embed it into our business. So one of the things we can do is just have a shared link to this GPT and give it to our team so they can ask questions back and forth, which is what I would consider still on the beginner side of using it. But we can embed it onto a landing page, we can build it into things. But what becomes really advanced is in step 6. And this is where AI truly becomes that assistant. We can use tools like Zapier, Make, or N8N to integrate it into our existing workflows. Now, if you're just getting started, Zapier is the easiest. It is a different video. You can also hire someone for $500, maybe less, to implement it for you, especially if you understand the pieces. So what we wanted to do and what we're going to be able to do is you could then take that GPT and that knowledge and that instructions and put it into Zapier. So basically there's what they call nodes. So the first node will be new email received from Gmail or Outlook or whatever tool you're using. And then as soon as that email comes in, you could have it look, is this, you could have it basically categorize. So I'm talking through what the workflow would look like. Say, is this a sales request? If yes, it'll go down a path and say, okay, the sales request. Okay, so now draft, it'll basically then go into the assistant, it'll put in here and there'll be instructions say, draft a reply based on this email so that we get output of an email. So basically we're rebuilding an instruction in there. And then what it'll do is it'll go ahead and save that email as a draft. And then in your Gmail, you can literally see it as draft. So when you come in, open that email, you'll see that draft pre-saved for you based on your knowledge. And then your BDRs in the morning can just read it, hit send, read it, hit send, read it, hit send. And then if you get to a point where it's 99% accurate, 98% accurate, or you're just very happy with it, it's 90% accurate, but I just don't want to do it anymore, so it's reclaiming a whole bunch of time and I'm going to accept that, then you get to put it on full auto. Now, my team doesn't do anything full auto because we're still high ticket and we're high touch, and we want to make sure that you're having the service you deserve. So we do this as human assisted in most cases, not everywhere. We have full lead magnets and things that are fully AI as well. But there's where we get to actually connect it to the different tools, our email marketing, and really look at how we're going to utilize this. Now, 6 is where you turn AI into that true assistant, where they have that true value of success. Now, final reminders, basically start simple, especially if this is your first time. Think of a simple workflow, and it could just be somewhere where you're having issues with ideas and going back and forth, and you find that you have to consistently give context. So, for example, I do YouTube, and I have an AI specifically for YouTube, and it's my assistant, and what it does is it knows a lot about YouTube. It's trained on viral titles, it's trained on a whole bunch of things, so I get to ask it back and forth if this is a good idea, am I positioning it right, is it too tactical, is it not tactical enough, and it really helps me curate ideas. And at the end of the day, it's still me doing the work, but it's basically having a contractor or an expert sitting with me going through everything that I've trained it on. So once you find that simple problem, you want to solve it. You want to just figure out how we're going to solve it, get that output, walk through each steps, then test to make sure it works, lock it in, and then once you see that true return, repeat. That's where you're going to start looking at the next constraint in your business and make this cycle of success. And hopefully you're finding constraints that are actually constraints. So you're actually increasing revenue, lifetime value, retention, or saving time. So as you start doing this through your business, you'll slowly see real growth. Now, if you like systems like this and you're a founder or an executive and you feel like you're in your own way and you can't get into the job that you actually want, which is maybe leadership and growth, Founder Systems AI might be the exact course you need. Check it out down below. And if not, just hit subscribe and grab the tools for free, and hopefully we'll get to see you in the next video.